I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. 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 I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, okay?
Hey, you. Welcome back to I'm Sorry, Okay? A podcast where we are watching so much Degrassi. I'm Mary, here with Paul and LD. This week we watched Season 3, Episode 7 of Degrassi Junior High, The Whole Truth. This episode was written by Susan Nielsen, directed by Eleanor Lindo, and originally aired on December 12th, 1988. In this episode, Caitlyn learns a lesson in balanced journalism when she writes an article on animal rights. And Joey tries to get his demo tape heard at a radio station.
Welcome back, Mary.
Hey,
Yes!
I'm back, broomheads.
Yes! I'm so happy to just be the color commentary guy again. I no longer have the responsibility of steering the ship.
Yes, the protocol droid has returned.
Yes.
Thank you both for holding it down while I was off doing some personal things. But yes, I'm very glad to be back.
Your spiritual journey on LinkedIn.
Yes.
You're ready to tackle this hard-hitting episode of children's television from the 1980s.
Oh, I'm ready. And actually, according to Wikipedia, every episode in season 3 is named after a song from the 80s. And so I tried to look into this, and I did find a song from 1986 by Nick Jameson called The Whole Truth. Paul, maybe you can drop a little bit of that in there. It's a smooth jam.
Okay. Because last week we were saying we thought this predated naming episodes after songs, but apparently we're here.
Okay, it could, because I tried to look back a little bit and at some of the other titles like Can't Live With Them and stuff. And some of the earlier episodes I could find a song from the 80s and some of them I couldn't. So Wikipedia, I'm, much like Caitlyn, I didn't check my facts that hard. All right. Should we get into it?
I would love to.
Okay. So, Spike and Liz are hanging up flyers for a protest against product testing on animals, and Caitlyn gets all nosy and starts asking about the monkey on the flyer, so they invite her to the protest.
Liz is doing the legwork, which I love to see it. She's hanging up the flyers, but she's also spreading the word, and she's gonna be at the protest. There's a lot going on just right off the bat here that I like.
Liz immediately launches into the most gruesome details about what they do to the monkey.
Yes.
And of course, what I wrote down is Liz also vegan? Because boy, I've got some news for her about how other animals are treated.
This is her longest monologue yet, too. It's
this
the
is
most
she's
we've
talked.
ever heard from her, and it's just her giving a brutal description about what's about to happen to this monkey, and it's all really not good.
we all gotta get into our social justice causes du jour in our own way, and sometimes these things contradict themselves. Even as adults, it's hard to really make sure that we've got everything that we care about lining up. So, she's feels like she's dipping her toe into that pool. I love it.
She's doing a good job and a very accurate job of being an aggressive high schooler.
Yeah.
That's probably about as factual as I would have gotten in high school. These are definitely some PETA certified posters. I've always had a problem with the stuff that's just super gory or super gruesome.
Yeah, I guess we should say if you haven't watched this episode yet, which I don't know why you'd be listening to this but haven't seen the episode, but it does get a little graphic in the episode as far as some of the things that were shown. So content warning there, yes. I guess. But
later on.
We will not be going into that, but
we're not going to be describing frame by frame the horrifying images that Liz shows Caitlyn Clockwork Orange style.
But also, Liz like nails it though. Caitlyn is like she found a good mark in Caitlyn. Like Caitlyn is like all in pretty much right away. So.
But that's because Caitlyn can be swayed to think literally anything, as we discover. Like she's everyone's target because she has no personal convictions.
And if someone makes like a compelling argument, she just immediately like jumps to their side.
Yes.
Yeah.
And abandons any other thought that she had.
I appreciate that kind of enthusiasm too. I see where all of these children are coming from. It's great.
I hate all of it.
Also, just one more thing about like, I don't know if you had anyone else had anything else to say about this scene specifically, but there was like a weird monkey sound effect when she touched the poster. What was that?
And then and it fades into the sound of the bell.
Yep. I wrote, who made that editorial decision?
It was a choice.
I hate it.
It definitely seemed like this episode has a little bit of an agenda. The way that they showed the actual video, like in the episode, it felt like they definitely have a perspective, but then they kind of like step back from it at the end, which we'll get to. But I was kind of curious, like, because we know later on that like Liz watched this video, but I was kind of curious about where she gets her other information from. Is it from attending protests? Is she reading books? Is she reading articles? Like she's got a lot of facts, but it's not totally clear to me like where she's getting these facts from. But I'm happy for her that she just like has an interest now. She has some kind of character trait that's not just a haircut.
Yeah, she has something other than just insulting everyone who she goes to school with, which she still does in this episode.
Hell yeah.
Gotta do it. One other thing is at the beginning of the episode, or at the beginning of the scene, Spike is saying that she's trying to get her mom to take care of Emma so that she can go to the protest, which I just kind of like that she's still helping out her friend, even though she's not sure if she can actually like be there and attend. And it's kind of a thing with activism, right? It's like different people can contribute in different ways because not everyone can do the same amount of like work in the same way.
There's a lot of reasons that people can't go to protests. A lot of people can't go because they're disabled. They might have precarious like immigration statuses. They might have carrying responsibilities. There's a lot of reasons. And so I think it's cool that they're showing that there's other ways to support.
So Caitlyn and Trish are organizing the next issue of the Degrassi Digest, and Trish thinks it's going to be the best one ever. But Caitlyn wants to cover more hot issues.
She says it like she is Samantha on Sex and the City.
I know.
She's like,
I want them
something hot.
Because I was also like, what does that mean? Are animal rights hot?
I was confused. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, she's just looking for some like their spread is on like cafeteria food or something, like that.
Getting fries and gravy.
Yeah, Caitlyn's trying to like move product, like she's trying to like generate interest, and like I think we all know in this scene, whatever Kathleen is about to turn in, like it's not gonna be what Caitlyn is kind of imagining either.
It's not going to be a hard-hitting issue. Yeah,
no.
They have all. Yeah, Trish has all of the articles except for Kathleen's.
Caitlyn loves a good like hot button issue.
The thing is what Kathleen turns in is a hot button issue. They just don't like it, and they don't like that she's arguing for something that they don't like, and they don't like Kathleen. I'm actually gonna defend Kathleen in this episode, and I'm so sorry. I don't like it either.
I can't wait.
It happens to all of us sometimes.
Oh, we haven't really seen much of Kathleen since she got milkshaked.
True. And then I also wanted to just mention that Trish is an organized queen.
Oh yeah,
love that for
with
her.
That weird thing around her top side pony.
Yeah, what was that?
It was like a hair wrap type situation.
Yeah. Have we interacted with Trish before this, or has she just kind of been around?
I didn't recognize her.
Okay.
Tough to say.
Okay. would have been something for me to look into before, but I didn't. All right. So
I also didn't.
Trish has just appeared and it's fine. It's the Degrassi way. All right. So after class, Melanie is complaining about her mom not letting her wear makeup. And Caitlin's like, just buy it yourself and don't tell your mom.
She's still allowed to complain about it. That tracks for Melanie. Her mom doesn't let her do anything. She's like, you can't have a bra and you can't wear eyeshadow in like 1988.
Yes. It probably is more so the fact that her mom is like so against it than like, of course she could just like do it herself. But I think Melanie is just stuck in the like, why is my mom this way?
Yeah.
I guess we don't really have much else to say. It's not a really hard pressing issue. But it is one that I definitely had issues with my mom about the kind of makeup that I wanted to wear and where I wanted to wear it and whatever. It's just like standard, like,
and crucial to where we're going in this
stuff.
episode. Like we're all talking about makeup.
Yeah.
And that the
yes,
fear is,
true.
there's a reason.
Ooh, I wonder if all of these things will intersect.
Yeah. And then Kathleen hands in her article on why Degrassi should have a dress code, and it is just an absolute heel move, and I also love it.
She has been working this issue since all the way back right after the election. That was her that is her number one issue as vice president. She's even going to the paper with this. Like she thinks that this is the way to go.
As someone in power, she is deploying the state-sanctioned media. We don't know why. Well, we haven't gotten.
We never
any
hear her
argument from
arguments.
No,
Yeah,
but
like
you can assume she at least researched it.
yes, I like given what we hear from her later on, she definitely has researched it. So I would be interested to know, does she have this perspective of like, sometimes there's a dress code because like different kids have different socioeconomic standard or like different socioeconomic like statuses. And so not everyone can buy new clothes. And so sometimes that becomes an issue, right? This is like the kind of school perspective sometimes.
It's an equalizer. Yeah.
Well,
It's
this
an
is
equalizer. Everyone looks the same.
Yeah, this is my question. What do you personally think about dress codes?
I'm personally against it, and I know that I would have absolutely hated it because for me at this age, it was really important to feel like I could express myself, and the way that I did that was through the way that I looked, the way that I dressed, and so not having that outlet, I think, would have felt really kind of suffocating to be like, when you're at this age, so much of your life is going where you're told to go, doing what you're told to do, and so if you don't even feel like you have the personal freedom to look how you want, and especially the older you get, the less you feel like, you really can like have like a cool haircut or like a wild color or wear your makeup. Like this is kind of the time where you actually get to like express yourself the most without a lot of like pushback because you don't have a job or something necessarily. So I would be against a dress code personally.
Yeah, I feel like I agree. I had very little control over what I was allowed to do or where I was allowed to be or whatever in high school. And I also think that when you get to make those decisions as a teen, a lot of the weird fashion choices, hair choices, whatever, you get it out of your system a little bit.
So it becomes a little bit stunted. And so like you're going to want to go through those processes no matter what. And so like, people can dress however they want to dress, whenever they want to dress, but like have those feelings like been affected by outside forces controlling like certain elements of their lives. And that could be said for like anybody or like any situation.
The arguments for that, like, yeah, it's an equalizer, that like we're there to learn, it puts the emphasis on learning. I also feel like sometimes though that's like maybe a little bit disingenuous, and it's actually just about like control and compliance and specifically wanting to control what girls are wearing. So I think it's hard because a lot of dress codes tend to focus exclusively on what girls are wearing and policing their bodies. Even when you're in an office environment, it's the same thing. It's like all these rules apply. We know, like, maybe they don't explicitly, but we know who they actually apply to. And so I think it's just hard to trust that the intentions are like pure and that it's not actually about just trying to like control people's bodies.
So circling back, like this is like you're talking about control and compliance and policing. And of course, this is why we have our very own resident baby cop.
Cop.
Baby
Cop.
Yes.
Baby cop.
Championing this issue. Yes, it all makes sense now.
And so we kind of already got to this point, but yeah, so Caitlyn doesn't want to publish Kathleen's article because she thinks it's dumb. But if they don't, like Trish points out, that then they're going to be short and they won't have a full issue. And I think that Trish is like the editorial coordinator for the digest. And this is like basically my job. Like all of Trish's like kind of points throughout, like, oh, but like we got to meet the deadline. We're waiting for one more article. Like we'll be short if we do this. Like we should just take all, you know, we can't like be making changes at the last minute. Like this is all what I do.
Also, Kathleen would have cleared what she was writing about probably ahead of time with Trish. You know what I mean? Like this article has already been okayed and allowed to go ahead. I just think it kind of sucks. I think it's like just because you don't share the viewpoint that a dress code is good doesn't mean that the article shouldn't go in. What's more interesting to me is not replacing it with something you like better, but then write a counterpoint article, like write something that debates it. That's a lot more interesting.
Or drop the article about gravy or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, also at the beginning of this scene when they're leaving class, Arthur says, I didn't know Edgar Allan Poe wrote comic books.
Yeah, what is that?
What does that mean? I literally don't. I like briefly tried to look into it. I was like, is this some kind of joke?
There's a lot of weird things like that in this episode, so I'm going to get them all in now. That line is weird. There's another scene where Radich's class is getting out, and Radich is like,
don't forget, spelling has 2 L's in it.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that?
Really weird thing to tell a group of 12 or 13 or 14-year-olds, but okay. And then there is also a scene where Snake is, I think, looking at a copy of the Degrassi Digest, and then they're outside, like in front of the school, and you can hear some kid, this is about 20 minutes into the episode, you can hear some kid just in the background going, hey, baby. Hey, baby.
Ew.
What?
Why? Why?
Ew.
Why?
Baby.
Why? Anyway, I don't.
I
who
will
knows
also
why
be-
Arthur? Who knows why Arthur said this? I don't know.
I will also be drawing your attention to a CRAZ radio ad later on.
Oh, please do.
Can't
I
wait.
Can't wait.
Over in the resource center, Miss Avery gives Scooter and Bartholomew a fishbowl, and Scooter busts out some dehydrated sea creatures.
I've got a lot of information about sea monkeys.
Lay it on me.
Okay, so my guess is they probably weren't allowed to call them sea monkeys in this episode because of copyright. That's
although monkeys would have been a good connection to the other plot.
I know, right? But that's my hypothesis because they're obviously like trashing the product. You know what I mean? So my guess is they probably weren't allowed to say that. So here's sea monkeys. Here's the history of sea monkeys. Sea monkeys followed off of the fad of ant farms in the 50s. So those became super popular and they were like, ooh, what else can we do? That's not a real pet. So this guy named Harold von Braunhut developed.
This is not a real name.
Who's to say? He developed dehydrated brine shrimp in 1957. He didn't get the patent until 1972, which in my opinion is a very long time. They were originally called Instant Life, but they changed the name to sea monkeys. So according to Wikipedia, sea monkeys were intensely marketed in comic books throughout the 60s and 70s using illustrations by the comic book illustrator Joe Orlando. These showed humanoid animals that bear no resemblance to crustaceans. Many purchasers were disappointed by the dissimilarity and by the short lifespan of the animals. He was quoted as saying, I think I bought something like 3.2 million pages of comic book advertising a year. It worked beautifully. If you look at my portion of our notes, I have included a large image of the brine shrimp.
Oh. Okay,
Uh,
yes, because we don't actually see anything. But
No.
so, okay.
So hold on. Here's how they work. There's more.
I don't like them.
Oh,
they're creepy.
they're cute. I like them.
Mm.
They just seem like they existed at the same time as dinosaurs. Like they're
Yes.
weird. Like
Yeah.
like an axolotl. You know what I mean?
I don't,
Sure.
because I don't know what that means.
You can Google that while I'm reading this. So here's how they work. A colony is started by adding the contents of a packet labeled water purifier to a tank of water. This packet contains salt, water conditioner, and brine shrimp eggs. After 24 hours, contents of a packet labeled instant life eggs containing more eggs, yeast, borax, soda, salt, and some food for the eggs, and sometimes die, but not always, are added to the water. Shortly thereafter, sea monkeys hatch from the eggs that were in the water purifier packet. Growth food containing yeast and spirulina is then added every few days. Extra and supplementary pouches can be purchased on the official website, though these are not required for the well-being of the shrimp. Basically, they were a scam, but also it sounds like they were kind of easy to mess up.
Like it's a lot of work for what is a very tiny creature.
And like
that's gonna die soon.
Yeah, it sounds like it was a huge scam.
I did have an ant farm as a kid, though. You mentioned that as being sort of the precursor to this.
I
course you
I
did.
had one, but no
Yeah.
one ever got me the ants to put inside of it.
Oh, of course they didn't.
So you just had dirt?
Yeah, it was just the
Enjoy your
little-
dirt toy, Mary.
It was like dirt with a little maze. I just
Wow.
used my imagination.
Wow, that is truly a youngest child gift.
Yeah, stepping back from that sad story, I'm just going to go back into the scene and say that I'm going to do my first double look of the week.
Oh.
I mean, Scooter and Bartholomew both look so good in this scene. And Bart's over here looking like he's in a post-punk band about to do a photo shoot with his little purple turtleneck. Scooter's just killing it as always with his light blue shirt, darker blue backpack, shrug, and salmon pants. I mean,
Yeah.
like anytime someone's wearing salmon color, you can't say no.
I like that you specified color and not like someone's
Right.
walking around with salmon, like some locks, just like
Anyone
hanging off of them.
wearing salmon.
So Bartholomew is actually also my look of the week.
Oh.
Heyo.
I think he looks like a beat poet,
Yeah.
He
Or-
totally does.
like a kid that like just got into like theater in the round.
Totally.
Yeah,
He
I
looks great.
yeah, he looks sharp as hell, and I would like to find a similar, if not identical, turtleneck for winter 2021.
It's got
Mhm.
like it's not like a full turtleneck. It's like a shorter.
It's a mock neck.
Yes, it's a mock
Mm.
neck. It looks
Mhm.
great.
Yeah, I look
But
really
they are
good in a
dressed
mock neck.
completely. They are dressed totally like he's wearing this mock neck turtleneck, and Scooter's wearing like a t-shirt, which I also love.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah,
people dressed
it's-
for different seasons.
It's still not super clear what season it is.
Bartholomew to me, like, okay, I know I'm talking to myself right now, but he has like major like data energy from Star Trek The Next Generation, who's like he's like an android, because he's just like, it looks like particle dust, like as it like falls into like water. And he's also skeptical. He's like, but how can something dehydrated come to life? Like he's asking the important questions, and I haven't been able to comment on him yet. I think he showed up like while I was on my break, but so I also wanted to just give a shout out to him. I love his dialogue and like the way he delivers his like
He's very
his
analytical.
lines. Yes, he's very analytical, and yeah, I like that. I'm into it. Oh, and then also just wanted to note the like goofy ass music between all, like for all of their scenes. It's like some really goofy version of like the intro.
I did not notice.
I
Shockingly.
didn't catch that either.
Oh, every time it's like, you'll hear it. So at lunch, Joey tells Alexa, Snake, and BLT about his job at CRAZ, Crazy Radio.
Alexa is enthusiastic as always.
Our queen.
She's over here shouting out the official, like, I'm Sorry OK's favorite podcaster, Dr. Sally.
They have Dr. Sally, the sexual lady. I love her show. It's so kinky.
Hell yeah. So kinky.
Like, is Alexa a certified freak at this point?
Yes.
Hell yeah.
And none of them respond to her when she's like talking about how kinky it is, and no one responds in any way.
They kind of have like a weird look, like everybody kind of squints, and like I don't think they even really know what she just said. That was how I read that. But also everyone is like, no one is impressed with Joey's new role as sanitary engineer.
Yes, he says he's a sanitary engineer, which is amazing. And then BLT calls him Mr. Garbage, which is honestly just a good nickname for Joey in general.
It's a good nickname for me, I feel like.
Oh yeah, even Snake like roasts him in this scene.
I'm in on the ground floor of the music biz.
Yeah, and you get to sweep it.
Burn.
Damn.
Alexa does call them jerks for making fun of Joey, though.
I mean, she also makes fun of him, and then after he walks away, I think she tells them to shut up or something. It's kind of funny because like that is something that feels like it would be horrifying in high school, but as like an adult, I'm like, there is no job that is beneath us. But like,
yeah.
Like, was there stuff in high school that you were like, ooh, like for me personally, and I'm ready to admit this now, I did not want to ride in the car of anyone who drove a minivan. I was like, that's fucking lame, man.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
We had a Mitsubishi van, so
Yeah, same. Well,
I had no choice.
I think my mom had a Mercury van.
I mean, like one of your friends who like just got their license or whatever. It's like you roll up to like school or like the mall or something, and you all get out of a minivan.
Okay.
But then you get older and you're like, wow, you can fit so much stuff in there. Wow,
so spacious.
we could go to IKEA in this. Give me that van.
I think I was always warned to not go into food service when I was younger. And then once I eventually did get into food service, I understood why.
Yeah, I never worked like fast food. I did work in like the service industry, but I think fast food always just seemed like kind of stressful to me. And like I would want just like the pacing, the disrespect from customers, just everything about it just seemed like stressful, and like I wouldn't want to do it.
I don't know, but yeah, I feel like if I had a friend who worked at a radio station, but their job was to be the janitor, I think that would still would have been cool.
I would have thought it was cool.
Yeah, so I don't know. But I mean, Joey's a clown, so it's also just like, whatever, make fun of him. I don't know.
All right, so Caitlyn asks Liz to write an article about the protest for the Digest, but Liz doesn't want to do it. So they make a deal that Caitlyn will write the article instead, and Liz will just give her all of the information.
I like, of course, Liz isn't into like doing something.
She's like, I'm not into school newspapers, and I don't like writing.
Honestly,
I mean, hanging flyers was already a ton of effort. Why would anyone want to work any more than that?
True.
Yeah, you're super passionate about this thing and you want to convince people to be on your side and go to the protest. Why do any more than simply hanging a grotesque flyer?
With no details.
I wonder what. Yeah, it has no information. It's just like protest. And I'm like, oh God. Yeah, I bet Liz is just awful in like group project scenario.
Oh, no question.
Well, when she was stuck working with Joey, she was trying to work on the project, but he was not participating. That was not his intention.
True.
So
I think Liz can read that this is going to be a better collaboration like effort here. So she's kind of
resistant to collaborating with Caitlyn, but they do make plans to meet up after school.
They make it work.
Yeah, which I kind of like that she's like, I'll just tell you about it and then you can do all the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Caitlyn, our resident tryhard who loves to crack through people's tough exteriors, is just like,
Yeah.
sure, I'll do all the work as long as you like me and think I'm cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, because
Try-
she's tried to kind of get into this friend group before. She clearly thinks that Liz and Spike are the cool girls because they are. And she's always kind of trying to like get in with them, but like not fully.
Are they cool or do they just have haircuts?
They have haircuts, but in my opinion, that makes them cool. So back to Melanie and her face. She's going to get some makeup despite what her mom thinks. So she asks Trish for a recommendation, even though Trish does not seem to wear any makeup at all. But Trish goes ahead and suggests Laura V because her dad works there.
Does anyone actually stand their dad this hard in real life? What a weirdo.
I'm not sure of the dynamic between her and her dad because it actually sounds a little problematic later on. Like in this scene, it's like fine, and she's just I could totally see being like, well, I know someone who works there, so this company.
I don't know. It was immediately like Laura V is the best, like as opposed to being like, oh, my dad works for Laura V. I might be able to get you a discount, or like I might be able to get you some mascara. As
she's she's also on that propaganda train.
Yeah. And okay, do we think Laura V, I tried to like look into it. I couldn't find any information. Do we think this is a real cosmetics company or just something that they made up for the episode?
I think it was a stand-in for L'Oreal or something.
Okay. Yes.
That was
That
my
makes
guess.
sense. Okay, and then Caitlyn also shows up and she starts talking about how she wants to dump Kathleen's article for the one that she's writing with Liz.
Trish is not feeling that.
No, Trish is not. Because, so Trish thinks that they should, like the articles that they receive, they should publish them regardless of like, how they feel about them. But Caitlyn kind of wants to have more of an editorial perspective and like she wants to have more curated articles in the digest.
Like, fair enough, but it can't just be curated to stuff you like. And also like I hate to back Kathleen here, but like she worked on that article. She, she researched it. She probably worked pretty hard on it. No one's given her any feedback on it. Like no one's like talking to her about it. They're all just like talking shit about her behind her back, being like, this is stupid. We're just going to replace it. And I'm just like, of course, that's some teenage girl shit. But I'm also just like, I don't know, man. Taking Kathleen out of the equation as like a person, you know what I mean? It's like, that's not a cool thing to do to somebody. That's not how you should be running your newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
I will, to defend Caitlyn, the protest is this Saturday. And so it has more of like, it's more timely to publish the article before the protest. And so that's really her only defense to like kick out, like to dump like Kathleen's article is like, sure, you can publish that at any time. It's not connected to any like actual upcoming event. But yeah, it is kind of shitty. Like, Kathleen has the understanding that she's writing something that's going into this issue of the digest. And then no one's even like telling her that it's not. She finds out about it later on, like kind of secondhand.
To agree with Paul from before, they could just bump this gravy and fries article and then make it like an issues issue. And there's like a bunch of different things that they're discussing in this issue. It's not like it's just like it's such a false thing to be like, oh, well, we don't have room, so we obviously have to get rid of this thing we don't like. It's like when people are like, oh, how dare you like put this public sculpture in this park? That money should have gone to paying nurses at the hospital. And it's like, well, they don't come from the same pot of money. It creates this weird like false idea of what there is space for, what there's room for, where things come from. It's like, it wasn't like Kathleen's article was the only one that could go. There's probably also something silly like a word search or something, because it's like a junior high.
She's targeting Kathleen's article because she doesn't like Kathleen and she doesn't like the content of the article.
I don't like Kathleen either, and I probably wouldn't like the article, but like
the last thing that I would say is just like Caitlyn's being really pushy with Trish here, but Trish is also like not super comfortable pushing back. She sort of does, but she could have also been like a little bit more forceful. So that's again why I'm not sure of their dynamic of like who's the editor, like what are the roles here.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Not super clear. All right, so Snake and BLT find Joey after school to continue roasting him, but Joey's like, I'm making money and connections, bitches. And he's Teflon, and he does not care what they think.
He is the working man's hero.
Yes.
I'm here for it.
This is a good side of Joey, I think. Like, he's really selling himself, like, in this role, and he's, like, just not letting the haters get to him.
I mean, we see through many years that no job is too like beneath Joey Jeremiah. You know what I mean? Like he grows up to be a used car salesman.
Yeah.
You know, which a lot of people think is like a gross job or whatever, but
it's stereotyped.
Yeah, but he's probably great at it.
Oh yeah. Yes. It totally makes sense that for his like trajectory that like that's where he ends up. And then after he leaves, they both agree that they also want jobs. So, like, why didn't they just, is this, like, boy culture? Why didn't they just say that to him? They're, like, so mean to his face, and then he leaves, and they're like, I should also get a job. My allowance doesn't really pay me enough.
Right, like, they don't even talk to the person with the job that they know.
No,
well, they don't want to let him know. Well, yeah, they're making fun of him because they're jealous.
You're just jealous.
All right, so Caitlyn and Trish are talking in the girls' bathroom, and Trish is comparing Caitlyn and Nancy's editorial styles, basically saying that Nancy didn't care what the articles were about as long as they were long enough, but Caitlyn has some editorial standards, okay?
Damn.
Well, and actually what Trish says is like, it's so different.
Check under those stalls, man. They
Nancy
walk
just,
in the door.
Slams the door.
I'm just like, come on, guys. You don't know who's in or not in that bathroom. I know it doesn't turn out that anyone was there, but that was the only thing I could think of when they just like walk in immediately talking shit to the girls' bathroom in a public space. I mean, they're right? Like all Nancy cared about was the word count.
Yes.
Nancy, our size queen, and her reign of terror is over. But they still should check who can hear them.
Yes. And then Caitlyn also takes her epilepsy pill, and Trish is legit like, yuck, which I thought was very rude.
Like, okay, ableist.
Yeah.
She weirdly stares at her the whole, like Trish
like
weirdly stares at Caitlyn the whole
very
time.
Weird.
I used to be on a medication for my joints that I had to take 3 times a day. And sometimes it would be like my alarm on my phone would go off that was like during a meeting or like I was in art school, like during a crit. And like everyone would just like turn and stare. And I was it's literally 2 pills. Like, please, like, please stop.
I did like, and it's for a reason that they're showing this, but I do like that they show her taking her medication to like normalize it. Like, yes, this is her actual experience now. It's like a part of her life, which is also weird why people are still staring at her because it's like she does this every day. So, after school, Spike is gently roasting Liz about writing for the school paper.
Caitlyn's not a prep. Sure she is. Everyone at this dorky school is a prep. I mean, except you, of course.
Love it.
Duh.
Yeah, I'm with Liz on this.
I know.
And also like Spike is like, Caitlyn's not a prep, and Liz is like, yeah, she is. And I'm like, yeah, she is.
She is.
Caitlyn is a prep.
Yeah.
She's a big joiner.
Yeah. But once again, Spike is just like being really nice.
Yep.
But yeah, I think we all related to Liz here. This was absolutely me in middle school and high school, just surrounded by dorks.
Yeah, same.
All right, so Scooter and Bartholomew are still messing around with these sea creatures, and Bartholomew is getting discouraged, but Scooter still believes.
This is very discouraging.
Like, I don't know why any of this is happening, but I'll take it over Arthur and Yick like any day.
Exactly.
So much more tolerable. It's like, this is the kind of like B plots that we should have been, and I mean, this might actually be a C plot, but this is the kind of like subplot that we should have been getting with Arthur and Yick, but those two were just like super toxic. This is way more like wholesome. I would say fun. It's not specifically fun, but like it's fine.
They're trying to have fun.
So over at CRAZ Radio, Joey gets in trouble because he left his demo on the program manager's desk, and apparently it's not the first time. And then on top of that, he didn't even empty the waste baskets, which seems to be his only actual job.
They bring us into the scene. He's just hanging out, like reading a magazine. Like, dude.
Every time we see him at work, he's like reading a magazine or listening to music or just like
flipping through vinyl, I think.
Yeah.
Like,
One time he was wiping down a counter.
But he only did that because the boss, or she's not his boss. Is she his boss? The receptionist.
It seems
we'll
like
say
it.
she's his boss.
Yeah.
Oh, and she tells him, "You're hired to clean his office, not leave things in it," which I thought was funny.
Fair enough, man. I mean, as you said, the whole point is that like you get to know people at the job. You like network a little bit, but obviously like a 14-year-old isn't gonna understand that.
The operative word there is work, and like we're already seeing that Joey doesn't want to do any of the work.
First of all, you have to do the work. Second of all, Joey's like tactic here is so stupid. He's just leaving his tape around. He doesn't even say anything. He's not even asking or talking to this guy. So I really didn't understand why he kept just like leaving the tape out, as if someone's gonna find the tape, listen to the tape, and then be like, wow, this is incredible. It's just like, why don't you actually ask if there's any chance that your tape could be played in some way?
I know.
He's a victim of his own overconfidence. Like, I really think he believes that what you described is exactly what's going to happen.
And that it's so good, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be like, wow, look at this packaging. Look at this cover art. Oh my God, this music is incredible. I've never heard anything like it. Like, I think that's what Joey imagines is going to go down.
Oh, Joey.
He's like had this conversation in his head, like playing.
Yeah. He's like, he's trying to manifest it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then Dr. Sally asks Cindy, the receptionist, to change her show's theme music, which I was like, would this be Cindy's job?
Nope.
Like, what?
I just love that we get another Dr. Sally cameo.
She's great. Every time. Yeah, she's so like natural, and like you can just tell that like she's just being herself, and A+ performance.
Yeah, I'm here for it whenever Dr. Sally wants to make an appearance.
Yeah.
But so yeah, Joey overhears her like asking this question, and
then he just gets the same stupid idea he just had. He doesn't like chime in and be like,
Right.
well, I've got a song right here. Pull out the demo. There you go. No,
because
like,
actually, everybody wants something would be great for a sex show.
Yes. But no. He's like, let me try the thing that didn't work for me and got me in trouble. Let me do that again.
Yeah, not only did it not work, I'm on thin ice at my job. The job that enables me to keep doing this wacky scheme. Awful.
Yeah.
He's doing his best, but his best is just super not good.
Yes. He always like almost has a good idea and then not quite. Okay. So then Caitlyn and Liz have their animal rights date, which starts with petting Liz's rabbit while Liz shares terrible details about product testing, and then they go watch a graphic video about it.
I really love how they're talking about animal testing, and then Caitlyn gets really smug and serious and is like, you wear makeup. Like she's gonna gotcha on Liz. It's like Liz has been at this. This is not Liz's first rodeo. She's like, yeah, my makeup hasn't been tested on animals. Although I did wonder, because later when they talk about how, you know, when Trish talks about her dad saying Laura V's not tested on animals anymore, and then Kate's like, that's what they all say. I was like, well, then if we're applying that logic to everything, then maybe Liz's makeup is secretly tested on animals. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Or has been before or something. Yeah.
But yeah, man, they just watched this fucking snuff film.
Yes, they show it. We have to watch it too. We get like kind of like a zoom in.
Death is the only relief from constant agony.
It's weird though. Liz seems to only care about cosmetics and no other form of animal testing. Like she doesn't really seem to be talking about it for any other reason.
I think that's a perspective you could have. Like cosmetics are different than like medical testing, for example. Like I could see being like one is like life threatening, another is like you don't have to wear makeup, but you do like kind of have to take medication if you like have an illness. I think it's weird they don't make much of a distinction.
Exactly.
Or Liz doesn't even make the distinction. She just kind of only talks about cosmetics testing.
Well, she comes in later with some like some pretty heavy-handed like ableism or privilege or maybe a little bit of both, which we'll get to.
Yes,
and also I've got lots of information about times when testing on animals did not give us scientific breakthroughs for medication, but we'll get there.
Sure, yeah. So Joey goes ahead and tells BLT and Alexa that Dr. Sally is absolutely going to use the Zit Remedies demo as the new theme to her show. And Alexa is immediately ready to be hyped on this, but BLT seems skeptical.
When we like go into this, Alexa is weirdly pressuring BLT to wear different clothes.
Yes,
to wear prep clothes.
To wear
She
a polo
basically-
shirt.
Yeah.
I think she wants him to dress like Simon.
It's like, then just go out with Simon again. Like,
Yeah. And
I'm
BLT
still
is
very
like
confused by
he's
that.
like an athleisure king. He is like not interested in this.
Yeah, dude, BLT's got an amazing sense of style. Leave him alone. Simon, no offense, has never been look of the week.
True.
True.
Yeah. So wait, are they officially dating? I wasn't sure. I forgot to look into that.
It
we don't
seems
know.
like they are, but
Yeah.
I thought she was officially dating Simon. I don't know. She seems to not want to put labels on things.
You know what? And that's
Nice.
fine.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
She's-
also, she doesn't need to be telling BLT what to do.
Yeah, but she likes to be like a controlling girlfriend. She kept like telling Simon when to shut up and when to eat his lunch.
That's true. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work out with BLT though. Okay. Oh, and then also Wheels makes an appearance and Joey's like so excited to see him, but he's only there because his grandma called his social worker and they threatened him with a group home if he didn't start going back to school.
Yeah. So he's just skipping school? Is that what's going on? I thought he was like helping his grandparents out and that's why he wasn't in school. But this makes it seem totally different.
I assumed he was skipping because he was making his way through those 5 stages of grief. But I guess my question is like, how does sending him to a group home solve the problem?
Well, he's maybe more policed in that situation than his grandparents maybe can't really handle him. Like
Maybe.
they're old, dude. Like he's
Did anyone
like,
else notice that Wheels' voice is much deeper in this episode?
his whole vibe is just totally different. It's really sad to see. You can just kind of tell like this path that he's going down where what's his motivation, like he was trying to do better in school probably because of his parents, and now that his parents are gone and it's just so like this huge like chaotic situation has like entered his life, and it's just like what's his motivation to, and everyone at school was being so weird to him, so like what's his motivation to be there? But
There's none.
there's none. But then it's also like long term, it's like, oh dude, you really want to like finish high school, because if you don't, like that's really gonna make things harder for you. But teenagers don't really think about things in that way.
Well, no, when you're like 15, you can't see that far ahead of you. All you can see is what's immediately happening, and everything feels world ending at that age.
Yeah.
Every breakup, every friend not talking to you, like every fight with your parents just feels so urgent.
You two have talked about this in previous episodes, but like Joey is such a great friend to Wheels. He's like so happy to see him. He's always trying to like get him excited about like band stuff, which is, kind of self-serving. But I think it is also like that used to be the center of their friendship, was like band stuff. But like, like Joey just like does not give up on his friend, which I think is like a good thing we can like say for him.
But Wheels is more skeptical than BLT and Snake about Joey's like fake news radio scheme that he's like pretty much lying about. Also, every time he talks about it, he's like constructing a completely alternate reality to the one that we are seeing like actually play out.
Fake news.
Yeah. So Scooter and Bartholomew are still staring at this empty fishbowl, and Miss Avery finally wants to know what's going on, and then they tell her about the sea creatures, and then Scooter receives a shoulder touch for being scammed.
He does not say scammed. He uses a very racist term. And even in 2021, I still hear people saying it, and it is not good. And I'm surprised that people don't know the origin.
So you're talking about like a racial slur against Roma people.
I
basically.
am.
Yes, and
Yeah.
nobody needs to use these
Nope.
terms.
Nope.
Definitely more prevalent in the 80s. But yeah, like Miss Avery is just helping them like brush with unfettered capitalism, basically.
Yeah, man.
Also, really quick, at the beginning of this scene, Mr. Lawrence makes an announcement asking if anyone has the mailing address for one Jason Cox.
Oh,
We
I
miss you,
missed
Jason.
it. My boy.
Our heel.
There's nothing else we get out of that, but they're still thinking about Degrassi's number one heel.
They also
Jason
haven't
Cox.
forgot. I mean, who could ever forget Jason Cox?
LD sure can't. It's why she's gay now. She couldn't be with Jason Cox.
They really did. Their energy was so much like the start of a romantic comedy where they just like hate each other, and then by the end they should have fallen in love.
It was You've Got Mail.
Yes.
It was 27 Dresses. It gave me When Harry Met Sally. It was delivering on that like rom-com love hate. We argue until we throw all the stuff off the desk and then start making out.
What could have been if he decided that he still wanted to continue acting? I think he just didn't want to be an actor anymore.
Fair enough.
All right, so Caitlyn and Melanie are in the bathroom, and Melanie is all excited, telling Caitlyn she borrowed some makeup, and Caitlyn just absolutely destroys her and tells her that they tortured rabbits for the very mascara that she is now wearing.
Like, calm down, Daddy.
I just thought you should know.
She doesn't even say like, you look really nice, which by the way, Melanie looks great. I love her with her makeup look.
Yeah,
It's
she looks
very
cute.
It's very cute.
Very
She doesn't
subtle.
She says nothing before just jumping right up her butt.
I
don't get
kind
it.
of loved that they were just completely talking over each other. Like Melanie's just talking about the makeup and Caitlyn is just like talking about the protest, and neither one of them is like listening to the other person at all. I was like, that's kind of a real moment.
I mean, Caitlyn's talking and then Melanie's like, you didn't even notice. And then she's like,
Yeah.
giving her face.
Well, and then also because Caitlyn was the one that told Melanie she should just go ahead and get some makeup without her mom. So she's like following up. She's like, hey, I took your advice. And then Caitlyn is just like, okay, because Caitlyn's acting very much like, Caitlyn, you just learned this information yesterday.
Literally
and she's
yesterday.
acting like, you should know. Like, it's like, okay, like, you can share that information in a different way.
I literally put, she seems to have all the answers for someone who just learned about this yesterday in my notes for 2 scenes from now.
And then Melanie just straight up rolls her eyes when Caitlyn leaves.
Same.
Yeah.
Hard.
And then, fresh from lecturing Melanie, Caitlyn goes to lecture Trish and tell her about the series she and Liz are planning, including calling for a boycott of cosmetics products that use animals for testing. Trish asks about Laura V, and Caitlyn tells her they're one of the worst.
And Trish looks worried because she likes her dad, apparently, which I can't relate.
And yeah, and Trish spends like exactly 1 class period thinking about it and then decides that she must resign from the digest out of loyalty to her father. And she's like, he's my dad. I can't go against him.
I was just like, babe, do you honestly think a few 8th graders boycotting a major makeup brand is actually going to cause your dad to lose his job? Like, literally no one in this episode knows how to do more than 5 minutes of critical thinking. And even 5 minutes is like pushing it hard.
It's sort of conflict of interest stuff. Like that's a real like journalistic sort
Right.
of standard that one might have. And like, she is like involved with this industry that they are going to start like covering and like advocating against. So that like realistically makes sense that you would like step back and be like, I can't engage in like non-biased, like,
Right. It pays the bills, right?
yeah, like, so it's like sort of a professional call, honestly. I mean, the way she phrases it is weird. Like, I can't go against my dad. Okay.
Yeah.
But like, it's just like, yeah, like it's a conflict of interest and she's maybe doing the right thing.
She also says that her dad said that they don't like test on animals anymore. But yeah, it's just that her point isn't like, well, my dad says that they don't do that anymore and like I believe him. She's literally like, I can't go against him. And so that's
Sure.
and
It's
it
weird.
honestly just felt like kind of weak to me. It was like, well, you shouldn't have a strong perspective because people have jobs. So just don't have any perspective at all, or like don't take any action at all. Like that's what it felt like it was actually doing, is like, well, there's people who, you know, are employed because of this product testing that allows them to make cosmetics to sell to the public, and then that employs people. And it's like the same thing of like
liberal guilt.
Exactly. It's like, well, we can't make environmental like activism like an actual cause because people have jobs. And it's like, well, maybe people should have other jobs.
Well, yeah, it's like when people make arguments against more sustainable forms of energy and people are like, yeah, but then everyone in the oil industry will lose their job. And I'm like, well, they'll probably end up working in a different a different genre of this sector.
So make that part of it, is like, how can people get training to move into more like green jobs?
Yeah, how do we upskill? How do we reskill? How do we retrain people?
Right.
Like, I guess this is the thing, is when people argue against this sort of thing, they think that it's just going to be like, one day there's gas and the next day there's no gas. It's like, no, actually, usually things have a very long phase in and phase out. Like, if our governments are doing their jobs, which they're not, but
They never do.
But how will the cars go?
Well, Kathleen seems to think that animal testing is totally necessary and shouldn't be phased out.
Yes. So she finds out that Caitlyn dumped her article, and then they get into an argument about the facts on product testing.
Kathleen's here to roll in with that Fox News perspective.
Yeah, I wrote, Caitlyn parrots what Liz told her word for word, but it's not enough to come up against the Bill O'Reilly of Degrassi Junior High.
She did a project on it in grade 7 and she got an A, okay? She knows what's going on.
Facts.
I mean, grade 7 was only like 6 months ago, so. But like, you know, this is the thing, right? Is like, this is what I'm saying. It's really important to know all of the facets of your argument and what you might come up against, because you are going to come up against a Kathleen, and like, full offense to fucking conservatives, but they always have like 13,000 sources just like in their back pocket to be like, well, actually, I mean, whether or not those sources are factual or not is a different thing, but they always have something to cite. And so it's like, okay, so here's the thing. They do start talking about like medical research or whatever. So I have knowledge. Are you ready?
Yes.
So Kathleen is right about one thing, which is that animal testing has led to major medical breakthroughs, you know, stuff like the polio vaccine, right? Like it was tested on, I forget. I want to say rats, but I don't remember. So rats are my placeholder. Anyway, but there are a lot of examples of other things that were tested on animals that obviously, because animals aren't people, they couldn't find out. So thalidomide, which I think a lot of people know about, right? Like, is this something I need to introduce? Thalidomide was a morning sickness drug. It was tested on 10 strains of rats, 15 strains of mice, 11 breeds of rabbits, 2 breeds of dogs, 3 strains of hamsters, 8 species of primates, and other such varied species as cats, armadillos, guinea pigs, swine, and ferrets. So it was tested on just a shitload of animals. But when women were prescribed thalidomide for morning sickness, all the women who took thalidomide ended up having children whose limbs didn't develop. So they were referred to as, and I'm quoting this, flipper babies. They had like extremely shortened arms and legs. And that wasn't something that they found in any of their animal testing. And if they would have tested it on like embryonic cells, they may have seen that, but they didn't. And so there was all of this data, and the drug was made available, and 10,000 babies were born with these birth defects. And then again in 2004, there was a pain reliever called Vioxx. Do you guys remember that?
Mm-mm.
So basically, it was found to increase the risk of blood clots, and they tested it on animals. And basically, animal testing is kind of like the only data that seems to be really necessary for them to push through stuff to the FDA and get approval from the FDA to use on humans. And I guess that's also sort of a gap in legislation. That's our government's failure to protect us. It is the product of a for-profit medical system where like drugs are just like, constantly churning out and needing to get
a product.
So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, animal tests supported the release of Vioxx, and it ended up killing 27,000 people because they developed blood clotting, and those blood clots weren't present in the animal data. And so then I wanted to look that up and see what pro animal testing sources had to say about those same situations, which was basically
wait. You looked at the other side of the argument?
I sure did.
That's not what we do here.
No, but I did. And basically the other side says, well, that's actually an argument for increased animal testing, because they should have tested it on they should have tested thalidomide on like pregnant animals, which they didn't. But like, then the sort of neutral stance here is basically you don't need to test that kind of stuff on animals, even if it's
It's
medical,
not the
because
perfect
there are
testing solution, because like you're saying, there's still gaps there.
Yeah, they don't have the same anatomy as us. They don't have the same genetics as us. They have completely different systems. So I do not have the same system as a guinea pig, shockingly, despite being a tiny little rodent. But yeah, after reading all this stuff, I'm still asking lots of questions about like, okay, is it ever necessary? You know what I mean? And this is something I've thought about. Like, I don't use products that are tested on animals. I don't use, I use like vegan society approved, like, or whatever they are, like cosmetic products and shampoos.
Which is now a
and blah,
selling
blah.
point, right? Like
Exactly.
so many products include like statements about like cruelty free, not tested on animals. Like that's now like a way to sell to consumers, because most consumers are more educated and don't want products that are tested on animals.
It's a whole industry now.
Yeah.
The like cruelty free cosmetic industry.
Yeah. You mentioned rats and mice, and yeah, one of Kathleen's arguments is that 90% of animals used in research are mice and rats. So like we get into the like, well, who cares about them because they're not cute?
Well, yeah, but it was interesting because like obviously Caitlyn cared when it was like rabbits, because she had pet Liz's rabbit. She cared about monkeys,
cats and dogs.
Yep, she says cats and dogs.
Yep.
But once it goes into mice and rats, she's like, "Oh, okay, you're right."
Yeah.
Immediately flip flops.
Okay, so not surprisingly, Joey gets fired from CRAZ Radio.
What?
But Dr. Sally liked his demo, so I guess it all works out. I don't know.
A very odd scene. Like, I don't know. Like, do you believe that this person actually would have put this tape on and like listened to it?
Who plays a random tape that they find? I don't know. Maybe you would do that, but it's...
Well, I mean, I would do that, but I don't know if Dr. Sally would do that.
Dr. Sally's cool. Dr. Sally's entire like life, it revolves around reassuring children.
True.
And young people.
She's very encouraging, but also like Joey is just like, he's so stoked on this endorsement, but it's like, yeah, she's like, it's not like she's in the music business at all.
No,
it's just like, it's like your mom's friend being like, great job on that demo.
But I guess like she's a person who's on the radio for a living. She's an
Right.
adult. It's somebody validating him. It's somebody who's like, at least Toronto like famous. I thought it was sweet. I think
It was sweet.
Sure.
It was.
and I'm assuming that either she heard him getting chastised or fired for this, or people around the radio station were talking about the annoying kid who's a janitor who keeps leaving his tape on people's desks. So who knows? I
Right.
think she was trying to help him out and just remind him to like keep following his dreams.
Sure.
But also,
Wholesome.
this dude literally could not handle emptying wastebaskets. Joey. Okay, so at the beginning of this scene, there is a Laura V Cosmetics commercial playing in the background at CRAZ Radio. And I legit thought that someone was like being sexually harassed at work. So like, can we please do a reading of this commercial?
Ooh, okay.
All right, we've got narrator, Chuck, and woman. I will volunteer to be Chuck.
I'll be the narrator.
Okay.
I'll be woman.
All right.
Gender is a prison. Soft saxophone music plays.
You're looking good.
Thanks, Chuck.
Say, how about dinner tonight?
Dynamite.
When you want someone special to notice you, Laura V Cosmetics. What a
Thank you.
shitty ad.
What is this ad? Like until the woman says dynamite, I really thought something creepy was happening.
How did I miss this happening at all?
So it's like
Yeah, I did not catch
it's
this.
right at the start of the scene. Joey is like listening to his headphones and like not working at work. And at first I thought it was someone talking to Cindy, the receptionist. And I was like, is Cindy okay? And then I realized it was an advertisement for makeup. Like, all right. So is that the last we hear of CRAZ Radio? I don't know, but possibly.
Who knows?
Okay. So Caitlyn goes to the resource center to check her facts and learns the devastating truth that Kathleen was sort of right about something.
At the beginning of the scene, we get a cool girl alert with a "Who is she?" This girl in a Depeche Mode t-shirt and a black vest just hanging out.
This is my Who Is She and my Look of the Week.
Oh.
You already described her outfit, but yeah, it's like a black and white Depeche Mode shirt with a black vest. She's got like wavy brown hair and a big banana clip, and then she's got like bleached blonde bangs and like black nail polish, and she just looks like amazing. And she does a great job of checking the time.
She has somewhere to be. She has somewhere she has to be to rock.
Well, the resource center is closing. Caitlyn is so engrossed in her research that Miss Avery has to touch her shoulder to get her attention, to tell her to get the fuck out. I gotta go home.
Yeah, I really wanted to give a little reference to that clickhole article. Heartbreaking. The worst person you know just made a great point when she's so upset that actually Kathleen was right. Or what she thinks is right.
So then Joey rewrites history and tells everyone that actually he quit his job. BLT is like, I never know what to believe with that guy.
Honestly, here's the thing. As we've discussed, your lie must contain a kernel of the truth. A better lie for this would have been that Dr. Sally loved the demo, true, but that the radio station wouldn't let her use his demo, so he quit.
Yeah, he's like, I want to shop it around for a better offer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he thinks he can like leverage this like Zit Remedy demo.
Nah,
Not gonna happen.
no.
And then just one other detail, Snake is reading the Degrassi Digest, and so we see Caitlyn's article, which is titled, Your Looks, His Life.
Yeah, all
It really
right.
makes you think.
So then Liz and Caitlyn meet up in the confrontation stairwell to argue some more about animal rights. Liz is still against product testing, but Caitlyn now believes that it's complicated.
Ugh.
I want to step back and just note that when Kathleen sees a copy of the Degrassi Digest,
yeah.
she just says, "Animal rights, give it up." Thanks. Thanks again, Fox News.
Oh my God. Yeah. And then, much like MSNBC and indeed all Democrats, Caitlyn has just completely flip flopped on the issue.
Totally
and is using
folding.
that, like, yeah, that both sides rhetoric that literally just favors the conservative viewpoint.
She's got like a good like personal perspective, and that her seizure meds are made possible through animal testing. And I think kind of everything we were saying about Liz is like really strong-headed arguments. Like that's kind of what creates the friction here, is that like, well, now Caitlyn has a very specific and personal interest in like what she has now learned is like an animal tested product that she does need for her physical health. And so that, you know, like, how do you like meet in the middle with somebody like Liz, who's like a little militant about her beliefs, versus like Caitlyn needs this medication.
Well, yeah, Liz says that she'd rather be sick than hurt an animal. And I'm just kind of like, well, yeah, that's really easy to say when you're not a sick person.
Yep.
Yes, I'm not going to defend like Liz's reaction here, but I will say Caitlyn just like springs this, like Liz is all excited because they actually like this article that they worked on together, and she's, you know, getting ready to go this protest, like she's like excited about it, and she goes to tell Caitlyn it's a great article. And then Caitlyn is just like, well, actually, and like just kind of like throws this all in her face, and again, like leaves no room for nuance. It's just like, you know, like, well, I personally have benefited from this, so now no one's allowed to have any feelings about it at all. And it's like, but why can't we still have ethical standards in animal testing? Or like where, like you're saying, like where can we meet in the middle? And Caitlyn doesn't even try to do that. She's just like, well, actually, your opinion is wrong because I take epilepsy medicine.
Just totally one of those like annoying lefty bros on the internet who's still like, oh, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism though, so I'm gonna do whatever the fuck I want.
Absolutely. I almost wrote that in my notes.
Yeah,
Yep,
so we just can't have feelings.
Yep.
Yeah, and you know, so Caitlyn tells Liz like, yeah, without her medicine, she would still have seizures, and Liz just stares at her, and then the episode abruptly ends with a freeze frame on her death glare.
I mean, honestly, that I do get the idea that Liz isn't much of a joiner, probably because her confidence isn't as high as we're meant to think. You know what I mean? She's probably really insecure about making new friends. She's still technically the new kid, new-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And she hasn't made really any friends other than Spike. She finally has put herself out there. She shared this thing that she's passionate about. Whether or not I think that she's like doing it in a way that like brings people into the conversation, whatever, just purely from an emotional standpoint. And now after she's brought this person into her life, she's had Caitlyn over to her house. Like they worked on something together when she doesn't usually do this kind of thing. She's like kind of made sacrifices, I guess, for this relationship, whether or not it is mostly a working relationship or not. And now Caitlyn's just like, so I actually just learned this thing 5 minutes after you taught me about a thing. So now I've decided you're wrong. And I'm not going to go to the protest. Like now I think you're stupid.
Yeah, she just like throws it all in her face. Okay, this is also why I kind of feel like Liz has Scorpio energy, because if a Scorpio lets you in and then you betray them, like, dude, you're dead to them. Like, that's it. And this face at the end of the episode to me says, you're dead to me.
But also they're still going to go home and cry about it because they are still a water sign.
Can't relate.
I identified with Liz here, even though she was maybe wrong at the very end to not at least sympathize with Caitlyn and her animal-tested medication. She was just a little badass this whole episode and would not fall for the liberal trick of completely abandoning any semblance of a political stance, and I love that for her. Yeah, I'm going to end it there.
This week I related to Miss Avery. She had to tell Scooter and Bartholomew and Caitlyn that sometimes reality really sucks ass. And that shit is true no matter what decade we're living in. And also, I'm often the person who has to tell people about reality.
I was absolutely Liz in middle school and high school. Just her whole salty vibe is extremely relatable. I was also the new kid. I think these things are connected. But yeah, she's just like quiet until she says something absolutely brutal, and you do not want to feel her wrath in the confrontation stairwell.
I keep calling it the SmackDown stairwell.
We don't have a good name for it. SmackDown stairwell is good though. I like the alliteration. That might
incredible.
Yeah, that might be the official title. Yeah.
Yes.
So, friends, what did we learn today?
This week, I was reminded that the real vehicle for crushing leftist movements is not the Fox News / Kathleen's of the world, but rather the white liberal. Martin Luther King Jr., in his letter from a Birmingham jail, said, "Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will," and that the white moderate can become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress. Caitlyn assumes the role of the white moderate in this episode, who believes in something only to the extent of when it is convenient for her. As soon as this situation affects her comfort in life, she immediately retreats in order to maintain her own personal sense of order. Animal testing in this episode could easily be a placeholder for any social issue we see today, be it the economic and health crises brought on by COVID-19, the tens of thousands of yearly preventable deaths and environmental destruction brought on by the unabated use of cars in this country, the continued racist treatment of black and brown people through state-sanctioned organizations like ICE, a racist institution that Joe Biden refuses to eliminate, just like Barack Obama and Donald Trump before him, or any other issue suffocated by hollow Democratic leaders like Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden or any of the other litany of members of our political leadership that choose the path of the white moderate, a path that only leads to further abuse to those without power.
Today we learned that it's important to believe in something, but you have to actually know the facts, and just as importantly, you have to know the arguments against what you're standing up for. Going into an activist situation with tunnel vision and only listening to your own echo chamber makes you not only ignorant and selfish, but it makes you useless to your movement. Liz and Caitlyn are right to be against animal testing. However, in order to bolster their argument and their own knowledge, they needed to understand why people might argue in favor of it, even if they don't agree, and be prepared to use real facts in place of emotion. Much like her article about Spike, Caitlyn was ready to push through an entire series of articles she hadn't even researched herself. Caitlyn is a fair weather slacktivist who in 2021 would probably be posting black squares and made up facts on Canva template infographics on Instagram. Not understanding other viewpoints makes you vulnerable to diehard conservatives and fascists who do often unfortunately have, for whatever reason, like 47 sources to cite about any given topic and will bury you in logical fallacies before you can even say PETA. Caitlyn is simply a centrist white liberal who can't be trusted to make an informed decision. Much like Democrats who cave to Republican pressure and crow about both sides, Caitlyn didn't see opposing views as a way of further informing herself and continuing her fight, but instead was swayed toward an unethical and frankly bullshit viewpoint. Liz had only researched arguments that confirmed her bias and therefore had absolutely no good argument against facts presented to her in favor of testing. Rather than saying she'd rather be sick than hurt an animal to an actual disabled person, which is both myopic and ableist, she could have discussed times when animal testing failed to give the full picture of the human body. Kathleen sucks all day, every day, but she was the only person this week who'd done her own research and had facts to back up her opinions. The truth is, no one is going to listen to you about taxing the rich or student loan forgiveness or abolishing ICE or police or prison industrial complex if you can't explain your position. Maybe I'm just a Libra, but being able to see every side to an argument will help you to communicate your position and relate to people.
Damn. All right, well, according to Miss Avery, we learned that you can't believe everything you read, and sometimes the whole truth can be hard to take. Like, she really did summarize this whole episode. But way back in season 2, episode 10, Censored, Caitlyn was supposed to learn about balanced journalism and the importance of covering all sides of an argument when she wrote about Spike's situation without talking to her first. But here she does the same thing and follows her emotions rather than the story. Liz is not exactly an expert, but her perspective is important as an activist, and she has clearly done her own research, and Caitlyn, as the journalist, should have checked her facts and followed up on any inconsistencies, but she doesn't do that until after she publishes her article. And then she completely abandons her previous opinion when it becomes inconvenient to her personally, and she makes no distinction between product testing cosmetics and product testing medicine. Once it becomes complicated, she just stops having an opinion at all and instead trusts the scientists. But scientists should be questioned too. They also have their own biases which need to be called out. It's common now for products to be cruelty-free because of the work of activists like Liz drawing attention to these issues and changing public perceptions. There is really no reason for Caitlyn to abandon the whole animal rights project just because she personally benefited from product testing. That could have actually made her a better and more critical journalist, but instead, she decides it's just too complicated to have an opinion at all.
Damn, we roasted her ass.
R.I.P. Caitlyn.
You can listen to I'm Sorry, Okay, a Degrassi podcast on Acast, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you enjoy what we're doing here at I'm Sorry, Okay, be sure to give us a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts.
And thanks for listening. You can follow us on social media at I'm Sorry Okay Pod, OK is spelled O-K-A-Y, and email us at I'mSorryOKPod@gmail.com. That's it for The Whole Truth. Next week we'll be watching Starcross.